Hello everybody, welcome to today's Sunday Sauce. Making this message on Father's Day, so I thought what better subject than to just kind of talk about a little bit in the scriptures about fathers and kind of some of the responsibilities, etc. And maybe also talk a little bit about my father and my upbringing and how that all was. So first I'll kind of get into my upbringing. I was in a good home, a kind home, but I wasn't really brought up as a Christian in my home, however. Both my parents, when they were younger, professed God and all that, but they really didn't raise us children in church or anything like that. It really had basically no influence whatsoever on me for the most part through my childhood with Christian upbringing. One of my uncles and aunts, maybe I would say, was probably the most inspiring for some of that and planted some seeds of that. It was my Uncle Bob and Aunt Judy, who are both passed away. And so they kind of planted some seeds for me. And beyond that, it was in my adulthood, well into my adulthood before I became a Christian. I would say before I became a Christian. And started to try and learn a little bit about the Word and just be the best person I can be. So that being said, my father growing up, we didn't grow up with a lot of money, especially at the beginning, and then as time went on, we had a little bit more money, but definitely not a family from money. But my dad, would always take his vacations and would take us on vacation somewhere camping usually. And a lot of times we would go up to Canada and go fishing, things like that. Those are the best memories I have of my father, and kind of family life is when all of us were out doing that, fishing and camping. He would instill some basic knowledge on us, and he always instilled in us kids a hard work ethic. He called it kid power, and we didn't go camping without doing our fair share and helping out. So, and throughout his life, he was a hard-working man throughout his life at his work and at his home, and just worked really hard. So that instilled on all of us boys, for the most part, are all very hard workers. And I credit that a lot to my father and his example that he set forth to us. I kind of wish he would have set forth that same example in being a Christian, but it just wasn't in the cards. I guess that's not the way it was supposed to be. So we go to some scriptures here that I read in the Bible. From Joshua 1:9, it reads, "I have not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord thy God will go with you wherever you go." And I like this one in Deuteronomy 6:6-9 also. "These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on the gates." I just love that one. It's got so much imagery in it. Basically saying, talk to your children about these things. Have signs, have things up around your house, paintings, little phrases, and stuff, like faith, love, the house that God built, whatever you want to have it do. It. Have these symbols throughout your home, and live your life that way as well. It's just the imagery in this Deuteronomy 6:6-9. I just love that. And let's see, what else did I come up with here? Psalm 103:13 says, "As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him." So it's another one I love. We should have compassion with our children. We should, it's the old slow to anger type thing. It's hard to follow that sometimes when you have kids. If you have kids, you would know what I mean. Sometimes it's hard to always quote unquote have that compassion, especially right at the heat of the moment when something's going on. But in the end, we have to have compassion on our children, just like the Lord has compassion on us for for our sins and our misdoings. So you got to try to remember that and put it into perspective. And there's a balancing act there where you have to discipline your children and teach your children and all this too. So it's not just like, oh, you did something wrong, oh, it's okay. You still have the discipline, you still have the consequences of the actions, but in your heart you need to have compassion for them and show that love at the same time. So that's kind of how I think of it. And I believe that's a biblical way of thinking of it as well. So, and in Genesis 2:24, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. It's very important when couples get married together. I think it's a great example as a father for their sons and daughters as well. That when they come together as a husband and wife, they become one. Then they leave behind their parents, and their parents over here. And now when I say leave behind their parents, I don't mean like they just don't ever talk to them, but the new influence on that couple's relationship is then each other. It's not the parents telling them what to do over here or the parents on this side telling them what to do over here. They have to come together and make decisions as one, as a united couple, as a married couple together, and make those wise choices. Now, if those two are not letting that happen, then it's going to cause friction in that marriage, and your kids will see that friction. They'll see that outside influence. So as parents also, as you let your children go off into the world, you have to let them go. You can't keep hovering over them and bossing them and telling them what to do all the time. Yes, you still give them advice. They're still your children. You still love them. You still care for them. But you have to let them go, especially once they get married. You're not their daddy anymore. I mean, you are their daddy, but you've got to let that couple flourish. You can't be there to always take care of them. Let that husband take care of that daughter. Let that wife love on that child. That husband. It's just a very important thing to set them borderlines. And it's very difficult to do because you've taken care of that child your whole life and kind of, okay, that's what you do. But you've got to set those boundaries. So that's another great way just to be a great father. I love that as well. I think that's so important. And in Proverbs 3, I love the Proverbs, full of wisdom. Proverbs 3:11 and 12 reads, "My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves, as a father's the son he delights in." So it kind of goes along with what I was saying. You still have to discipline. If you didn't discipline your child, you're actually not showing them any love whatsoever or teaching them anything, as far as I'm concerned. Discipline is important, but discipline with love. There's a difference with discipline and love and being in the children's lives at those points. So a huge difference there. So that's just a few verses when it comes to Father's Day to kind of think of. And I know Father's Day, just kind of like Mother's Day, can sometimes be difficult for people. A lot of us have lost our fathers. Now, me and Lisa have both lost our fathers and our mothers and our grandparents. They're all gone. So these days can be trying when you think back, but I encourage you once again, as I believe I did on Mother's Day, just to remember good thoughts about a father, your father. I think, if your father has passed away, sometimes you can get caught in that just sadness, and that's okay to be sad. You're going to be. But try to remember be in that sadness and remember the good times, so you're smiling while you're remembering. And I think that's just so important for yourself to remember those good things, not the bad. And there's those that grew up with a horrible father, maybe an abusive father in some way or another, or many different ways. And Father's Day comes along and you want nothing to do with that father because he abused you and was horrible to you. There's not much I can say about that. That's horrible, and that's I just pray for you that I hope those feelings go away and that you do forgive. I don't say forget. I don't say anything like that or put your way in any harm or whatsoever. But seek out some help and learn forgiveness for that, so that it doesn't bind your life together and hold your life hostage to those emotions that you have. So you may go on and just live your life without that, without all that emotional hurt as much as you can. I don't have a lot of experience in that area, so that's just kind of my take on best things to do is just to seek out some help and try to forgive. That's all you can do. So, and for those fathers out there, if there's any out there listening to this message, I just hope you have a great Father's Day. Hope you have been having a wonderful weekend, possibly, and just be a good example for your wife and your children and your grandchildren, whatever stage of life you're in, and great grandchildren. You can be a great positive influence on that. So I just thank you once again for watching this episode of Sunday Sauce, and have a great day. We'll see you later.